Welcome back to Real-ationship Goals, a podcast all about exploring the realities and complexities of healthy relationships. Real-ationship Goals is a project of the Prevention and Education Team at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual violence or harassment and is seeking support services or needs more information, links to resources and our hotline number can be found in the description. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of their organizations or affiliates. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Real-ationship Goals. I'm Kyla and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Ariana and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Elsie and I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Monica and I use they, she pronouns.
Cool. Awesome. So today is one of our special topics episode, and I know we're a couple days out from the start of November, but looking forward, we want to take as much time as possible to acknowledge and to celebrate that November is Native American Heritage Month. So we wanted to do our special topics episode focused on that. We're going to talk about different aspects of Native American culture and just recognizing that it is extremely diverse, just given how many different nations and tribes and peoples that there are. So there is no way that we will be able to be inclusive of everything, as there is just so much rich and vibrant culture. But we're hoping just to take a little slice, but take this episode as encouragement to really dive in this month of November and be learning more. I know that we've been having a lot of, or we've been starting to have more conversations on ways that we can be learning more and doing more. We want to encourage you guys to do the same, join us in that journey. But we're going to start off our learning with Monica.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about powwows today. So I found a very general definition to kind of give you a snapshot of it all. And the definition that I found is a gathering of diverse Indigenous nations for dancing, singing, and honoring ancestors. So from the beginning of powwows to now, things have changed, but some things that I found is nowadays a powwow can be 1 to 4 days. Spectators are welcomed, even non-native folks, and people who put the powwow on, they want to share aspects of their culture. So that's why they invite spectators, including non-native people. Also found that modern powwows are kind of separated in two different, not events, but in two separate areas. So there's like a competition part where they're singing, dancing, where people are like competing for prize money. And then there's the traditional part of it where people don't really compete, but people who, they all get money. Either all get money or some get money, like maybe the first 10 people, 20 people, 30 people that registered to compete. Well, not compete, they're not competing, but they'll get to participate. They'll get like equal amounts of money, either all of them or some of them, like I mentioned. I was also going to talk about how powwow is so often misused. A lot of non-native people will say powwows when they're talking about any type of gathering, whether it's like a work meeting or whatever it may be. And some native people have found it a very offensive term. When used that way, they see it as appropriating that term that has such rich cultural significance. But I did want to highlight that some natives see it that way, some don't. And I just wanted to put the emphasis on that because natives are not a monolith. But yeah, that's really all I have. I didn't want to go too deep into it because there's literally so much. I even found information about like how the dances are usually associated with some stuff. Like some of them are like religious, other than are like celebrations in regards to like regular celebrations, but also like in regards to war, all these different things. So I just kept it real basic and brief.
I didn't realize about the different, like, especially, I guess, the more competitive side.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I don't feel like I've ever heard of that before.
I've seen TikToks of like people competing but I never knew that it was like an actual competition. I didn't see them competing. I just see them dancing, but it makes sense that they're competing. I thought it was just like everyone just dances. Yeah, I didn't know there was competition. Yeah, it was cool.
Did you see while you were looking, or have you come across before, I guess, of any, just because I'm trying to think, of how to phrase this, I guess, of any, I guess still like tribes or nations that are here or might have powwows or things like near us, like or anything that's closest to us?
I feel like I didn't see anything when I was looking, but I had a friend who recently went to one in Texas. I mean, there's still tribes here, but I don't know where my friend went. But she went to one. I could be lying, but I feel like it was in the San Antonio area. But anyways, yeah.
My dad used to live up in Marysville, which is in Washington, kind of like on the peninsula, and it was right near. I'm blanking on the name, but they used to have powwows a lot, and it was and it was like his house was right here, and then the reservation was like right here, and so we could always hear it. It was so cool.
Fun. I know I've been following a lot of like Native Indigenous TikTokers and seeing like what they wear, and like throat singing. I've been learning about throat singing. I think it's so cool. Okay.
I like the sunglasses, like sun and snow glasses.
Yeah, I remember learning about that and about how people don't know that history of what we've gotten from the Native folks. But yeah. Okay. Who's next?
Okay. So mine is it's called the Ghost Dance. It began in Nevada in 1889 by, I'm probably gonna screw this up, but a Paiute named Wobaka. And he basically had a dream about the Native Americans being raised up into the sky, and then the earth like opened up and swallowed all of the whites. And so then the Native Americans came back down and were able to live in peace with all of their ancestors who also got to come back down from the sky. And then that kind of like spread throughout the Great Plains, so like South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, I want to say. And then it's a 4-day round dance, which from reading about it, I think they just like stand in a circle and like go in a circular motion with whatever specific dance moves that they're doing. But and while it was spreading, like each tribe got to like add something to it, whether it be a song or a specific dance move or anything like that. It's probably not dance move, but that's what I'm calling it. And then the one thing that like stayed the same was that the leaders would have like eagle wings on their arms, and then they would like wave them in front of the dancers' eyes, and so then it would like kind of induce a trance where they were able to go up to the afterlife and talk with their ancestors and kind of learn more about them. And eventually, as I said, it spread, and so when it got to Oklahoma in 1890, the Wounded Knee massacre ended up taking out a lot of the dancers, but then from that it was determined that the dance itself didn't incite violence. So then the like government guy that was in charge said that the dance was fine to do. But as of now, the Caddo tribe and a few others are the only ones.
Question. So the government allowed them to do the dance, so they think it was.
So after there wasn't a whole bunch on this, but after the Wounded Knee massacre, the like American ambassador or the person that's in charge of the reservations in the government, he had made a comment saying that like the dance wasn't the part that was inciting the violence, and that it was other aspects, and dance was still okay to do, but it was heavily suppressed after that, so it kind of like died down.
So and then now only a few.
But the only one that I could find like an actual name for it was the Cottage tribe.
It's my turn now. So the tradition that I'll be speaking on today is called the medicine wheel. It's a sacred geometric design that represents the balance of life and the four directions, which means the north, south, east, and west. And basically, the medicine wheel is also called the Sundance Circle or the Sacred Hoop. It's an ancient tool, sacred symbol used by many tribes. It signifies Earth's boundary and all of the knowledge of the universe. There are four colors that make up the wheel. So the four colors are black, white, yellow, and red. And they all represent different things. I think black represents physical, white represents mental, red represents emotional, and yellow represents spiritual. And they all represent different things as well. That's cool as well. And they also, those colors embody the concepts of the four directions, the four seasons, and basically the sacred path of both the sun and human beings. And the arrangement of colors can vary just among the different customs of the tribes. So there's colors that can be added, and things of that nature. They mean different things for different tribes. It is used for ceremonies, and they put feathers and medicines on them like in a bundle. There was like a representation of what a medicine wheel might look like. So it's like a circle and has the four colors on it. You know the thing that's on my black bag with the orange? I was doing it at the conference.
Yes.
So it was a representation made with that, with the four colors. And it goes like a cross symbol, and then it's a circle around it. And so like they could put different things on it. They could put feathers on it. They could put medicine on it. They also can make it out of like elk hide and just like deer skin and things like that. And I forget what you call it, but like the little thorns on the porcupines. They yeah, they flatten them out and put them on them as well. Kind of just depends.
Yes, make the art. Yes, that is so interesting.
Yes, and also another thing about that, like it can be made out of an object. It can be made out of art. It can also be made on the land as well as a marking in the land. And it can also be used for daily life. It can be used for decorations. Yeah, I touched on that. Like traditionally, it can be made out of an artifact, art, or physically constructed onto the landscape. Yep. And then medicine wheels have been around for centuries. And like hundreds of stone medicine wheels are also around on the landscapes of the US and in Canada. And then the oldest medicine wheel is located in Alberta, Canada, and it is estimated to be 5,000 years old.
I want to talk about preservation. Wow,
That's a while. I guess sorry, my brain is just going in lots of directions, but part of it was wondering about like the medicine wheel specifically built into the land. If part of that is also just like a hope for healing, like for the land itself.
Yeah, it's one of the things that they use for healing, watching over their people, watching over their land. That's why they can put medicine and stuff like that. And it's just used for ceremonies. It's just to celebrate the different tribes and making sure that they are safe, that they are one with the sun and the four directions forces, things of that nature.
Since you mentioned the different tribes use different colors. And they mean different things. It would just be really cool to be able to
look at different ones.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to give me more information about the tribes that use it, but it just said each tribe.
It makes me think I have a friend who has native roots in one of the Carolinas, either South or North, forgive me, but they were talking about directions that their native folks use, and it's like north, south, east, west, up, down, and within, or something like that. But the within one, I could be saying those wrong, but the within one was the one that I thought about. Because they were talking about it on Friday, and I wonder if their tribe uses like or has used in the past medicine wheels and how that within, if they incorporated that into a direction. But they could be completely separate, but I was thinking about that.
And I feel like it's so interesting to kind of compare to, I don't want to call it like Western, even though I don't feel like that's technically the correct term, but like Western or more like traditionally white rooted like medical approaches to things, where it's, I feel like there's such a separation between like the mental, like there's less of a separation between like the mental and the physical now, but definitely like I would also include like spiritual to be an aspect of like the mental to a degree and in different ways. And I feel like that's an area that's still overlooked, even though it is so deeply like meaningful and so deeply intertwined for like pretty much everybody else. I feel like like pretty much every other medical tradition, there's just more of a like an intersectional approach or like holistic. That's probably the word I would for. So it's just always interesting to see how different we are from everybody else, I guess.
It makes me think about also like indigenous tribes in Mexico, and like what my family has really kind of carried even throughout all types of colonization and stuff. Growing up, it was a lot of holistical stuff. I don't think we've incorporated something like a medicine wheel, but even finding those kind of how you were saying, those similarities in other cultures of how they really incorporate that spiritual part of it. It's really beautiful.
I love why special topics episodes are the best episodes.
Yeah.
So you get to learn about other things. It's so fun. But yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in with the last one. And we can keep chatting about everything. But I tried to find some stuff on dream catchers, which I stole from Monica because she picked a different focus, and I said, "Oh, wonderful! I'll take your old one." And something that I thought was interesting, mostly frustrating but interesting, was I kept trying to find like firsthand resources where I was like, I don't want to read someone who just like who was so far removed, and it's like lacking that personal perspective. Like I wanted to learn from someone who was like, this is like my history. And there are so few like I would say quote unquote traditional resources that are coming from directly from the Indigenous perspective. I tried to look for blogs. I tried to look for influencers online just because I was like, I know that that's probably, and I didn't get to spend as much time, so I'm going to spend more time like in the future looking for more. But I know that that's probably where I'll find more voices, just because that's one of the best things about social media is able to amplify such like it's so easier to share like personal cultures with the world, which is awesome.
That is why I will defend TikTok.
It's so
I will keep defending.
But all of that to say, there was a lack of, and something that I thought was really interesting was the most common resource that I came across several of the websites that I started to look at and then closed out of because I was like, you're not what I'm looking for. So many reference a book from like the 1920s, I think, or something like that, or maybe later. But what's most important was they were written by I think she was called like an ethnologist or something. Basically, somebody who studies like cultures, ethnicities, and things like that. I believe.
Wow, I never knew that.
But she was a white woman who was studying all of these native cultures, and so many people reference her as like the resource. Which I'm not trying to discredit her whatsoever. I'm sure she did very wonderful, very thorough research. But everything cited her, and there was nothing that was from like
maybe the people that
So I just thought that was difficult.
Can I add to
Yeah.
that? It makes me think of the event that I went to for Asian Leaders Network, where they got to talk about Asian history in Waco. And Waco is, I'm going to say very lucky, but I use that very loosely. But we have like an app that's called Waco History, and you can look at all types of history. But one of the guys that was there, forgive me, I don't know his title, I'm going to just say historian, but he got the chance to do a lot of oral history. So people, I mean, he used records and he had some records out there shown, printed out for us and things like that. But he also had the chance to go and talk to people who were directly impacted by this. One of them being like the owner, founder of Claypot, and hearing his story from immigration and all these different things in his family story. But that is lost sometimes because it's either not recorded, not documented in any way, shape, or form. And it makes me think about how history is passed on because a lot of history is either drawn, and when I say drawn, I mean drawn in that like maybe a different culture can read it just by looking at the drawings, but there's no words to it. So it can't be passed down. And there's like also languages that are lost. Anyways, let me not go on my soapbox. But anyways, I was just thinking about that, how oral history and other types of histories aren't recorded. And if it's not even in English, like how is it going to be shared in our nation type of thing? Yeah.
Well, and like whenever we think about like who is writing what gets published, who is writing like what is so prevalent and what is regarded, and it's reflective of like academia on the whole of like who has had historical access to be able to write these things, and therefore what perspective are they writing?
Okay, I want to add to that, and it's also kind of like
and we'll circle back to Dreamcatchers.
Yes, and then we will circle back to Dreamcatchers. I was on a panel on Friday, and we were talking about exactly that. A lot of the conversation was having to do about gender, and like the history of it, but like in a lot of Indigenous cultures, not even just like the Indigenous cultures that we call it in the U.S., right? But like thinking about like Native people in the Pacific Islands, they have a lot of third genders, but a lot of people don't learn about it because of the history that's being passed down. We're not learning about it. It's there and it's documented, but who's sharing it? Who's that gatekeeper? And I was thinking about it because there's a new Netflix series out that talks about the third gender in Mexico, I think. I have not watched it, but I've been wanting to watch it because that is something I didn't get to learn about. But anyways, that is my little tangent. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I did find a couple of different resources that I ended up deciding to trust for this. The first one was wearenative.org, which is super cool because it is actually intended for Native and Indigenous youth. With just like a lot of learning resources on like if you want to connect like to your culture, to your history. But the really cool thing is they have like a whole like find your relatives or connect with a relative, which I think is I didn't explore it a ton just because I was a bit in a rush. But I just thought that concept was super cool. Like especially depending on like where you're growing up in like this country, like you could be living like so far away from like the land that belonged to your like the tribe and things like that, and you might feel very disconnected. And that's just a really cool, another really awesome use of the internet for connecting people. So I just wanted to celebrate them. And this is directly from their website on the Dreamcatcher. So from wearenative.org, letter R. It says, "This is the way the old Ojibwe say Spider-Woman helped bring grandfather's son back to the people. To this day, Spider-Woman will build her special lodge before dawn. If you are awake at dawn, as you should be, look for her lodge and you will see how she captured the sunrise as the light sparkles on the dew which is gathered there. Spider-Woman took care of her children, the people of the land, and she continues to do so to this day. Long ago, in the ancient world of the Ojibwe Nation, the clans were all located in one area called Turtle Island. When the Ojibwe Nation dispersed to the four corners of America, Spider-Woman had a difficult time making journeys to all of those baby cradle boards. So the mothers, sisters, and grandmothers weaved magical webs for the new babies using willow hoops and sinew. The shape of the circle represents how grandfather's sun travels across the sky. The dreamcatcher filters out the bad dreams and allows only good thoughts to enter into our minds when we are asleep. A small hope in the center of the dream catch. Yeah, so it's a small hope. I think it might mean a small hoop. In the center of the dream catcher is where the good dreams come through. When the first rays of sunlight, the bad dreams will perish. When we see little Spider Woman, we should not fear her, but instead respect and protect her. In honor of their origin, many dream catchers have 8 points where the web connects to the hoop, 8 points for the Spider Woman's 8 legs. Some people place a feather in the center of the dream catcher to symbolize breath or air. From the cradle board, a baby can watch the air play with the feather and be happily entertained with the blowing feather, which I thought was really neat. And I also discovered something else while doing this research, and I'll circle back to that in a little bit. But from the indigenousfoundation.org, which is a group, I'm not sure exactly how active they are now, but I know they were pretty active, at least in 2022. And they have, while the 2 founders are not Indigenous or Native, several people on their team, like there's, I think, over 30 Indigenous and women of color that comprise their team. So I thought they were neat as well. But they share the story of Osibi Ka'ashi, who is the Spider Woman. I think that's her traditional name. But I'll probably, just to avoid mispronouncing it as much as possible, I'll probably just refer to her as the Spider Woman. So the Spider Woman was the custodian of all Ojibwe infants and adults. As the Ojibwe started to geographically migrate across all of North America, the task became too large for the Spider Woman to fulfill on her own. Thus, women were placed in charge of weaving the webs alongside placing charms meant to protect the infant. The charms would capture any harm surrounding the infant at any time, and they also shared the Ojibwe legend kind of behind it. So it says, a grandmother watched patiently each day as a spider spun his web above her sleeping place until one day her grandson noticed the spider and tried to kill him. Don't hurt him, she told the boy in a soft tone, surprising him. But grandmother, you should not protect this spider. When the grandson left, the spider thanked the woman for her protection and offered her a gift. I will spin you a web that hangs between you and the moon so that when you dream, it will snare the bad thoughts and keep them from you. And at this, the grandmother smiled and continued to watch the spider spin his web. And then there's also a legend from the Lakota tribe, which I thought was really interesting, and this is theirs. And it says, while receiving a spiritual vision high on a mountain, a Lakota leader met Iktomi, a trickster who also held great wisdom. Appearing to the leader in the form of a spider, Iktomi made a hoop of willow and spun a web inside of it. He told the Lakota man that many forces, both bright and dark, would attempt to enter people's dreams, and that the dream catcher he was making would catch the bright forces and allow the dark ones to slip away and burn up. Iktomi instructed the old man to make dream catchers for his people, so they could all achieve a bright future by capturing the good dreams that are blown about by the winds of the night. And it says, as you can see in the Lakota version, dreamcatchers trap good dreams, which is the opposite of what it is said in the Ojibwe belief, which I thought was really interesting. And then here's just the meaning of the different parts that comprise dreamcatchers. So the hoop is traditionally either circle-shaped or teardrop-shaped and represents the circle of life. The web is patterned after a spider's web meant to catch bad dreams or good for the Lakota. The feathers have multiple interpretations. Generally, I think it's believed that the feather provides a soft ladder for the good dreams to follow to the dreamer's mind. Sometimes there are beads, and a single bead represents the spider that wove the web. Multiple beads represent the bad dreams that have been caught. Sometimes there are gemstones, which can replace the symbolism of feathers if feathers are unattainable, it says due to laws and restrictions. That was interesting. And then arrowheads for increased strength and protection. Arrows point to the 4 corners of the earth directed by the wind. So I thought all that was really interesting. And then, so from the We Are Native, it talks about the cradle boards. And I read about way back in the early 1900s, I think. There was a lady who was spending time amongst, I think, some of the different tribes and stuff, and noticed that the women would hang their babies yeah, in the tree by the cradle boards, and then was inspired and created a popular children's toy that's actually still used now. Originally, I think it was called the Jolly Jumper, and it's one of those things where it looks just like a seat, and it's connected on like an elastic cord, and you hang it in like doorways, and the babies can jump. And it was just noted of like that's just like one aspect of how many inventions and how many things have been created like inspired by Indigenous and Native people. So I just thought that was a neat little kind of refresh. Huh?
And the nursery.
Which nursery?
Talk about it.
Oh,
Inspired by that. It's like when the baby, they're hanging in the tree when they get
oh,
bigger, like the thing will crack and then will fall and cradle will fall. And like it's just a representation of like the baby is growing up and will no longer like guidance and stuff like that as they get older.
I don't think I listened to it. That's really cool. Okay, best dream captures. All right, I love it. And yeah,
The We Are Native website, did it say like which tribe it
I think it's trying
there or
to.
anything like that?
I think it's trying to just kind of be more of like a general connection point. I think, like I said, I wasn't able to super go into it, but I think that it's kind of more like for just generally for folks to connect.
Because you were talking about something earlier, and then I wanted to bring it up, but then we were getting to that, and then I got lost. But the languages.
Oh, yeah.
I went to like some panel for my nutrition class at Baylor. I found it
Nice.
at the Mayborn Museum, and it was called like "We Are Waco," something about like remembering the eco. I don't know if they say that, but like those people, the eco people, and they were talking about like what they're doing to preserve their language and how they only have one elder currently who speaks it. And so one girl is learning it, and then as she learns it, she's making this is going to be a really like kind of like a Duolingo, but more specifically for kids that's like more animated and interactive so that it's easier to learn the language.
I know Duolingo has Navajo, but I know that there's like criticisms about it, like how accurate it is. Like same with like any other language, like Spanish. Spanish is very, very formal type of thing, all these things, but I know it's on there, but preserving language, because you know, like Spanish isn't the native language to make, but there's so many indigenous languages. A lot of people don't know them. A lot of people don't know them, and I know that there's like resources of that, almost like an online course for it that they created. But yeah,
I'm glad that
somebody's out there.
yeah, that they were able to catch it hopefully in time to be able to continue to promote.
Yeah. No, I highly suggest that if they ever come back, you go. That's a recommendation, but that you go listen to it because they talk about like their values, their language, how they raise money for their tribes, their healthcare system, everything. It was really interesting.
Any other thoughts for the thing?
No, I just have a lot to look up. I want to see what the medicine wheel looks like, especially like when they incorporate the land into it. So, yeah. Anyways, oh no, I was gonna say the dream catcher catching good dreams is so interesting because I've always heard it catching bad dreams, and I remember seeing a bunch of people with a dream catcher tattooed on them, and I was like, you are catching the bad dreams, like it's in your body. Like when people get the evil eye tattooed, and the evil eye is also supposed to capture bad intentions and whatnot, bad whatever energy. Like you got the tattooed on you, friend. Like you are getting something that is supposed to capture bad things tattooed on you. But it's really interesting to hear about the good ones, and also about the different aspects of like the feathers and the beads and things like that. Anyways, that was all I wanted to say.
And it is, I think, super important to also acknowledge just the like appropriation, just in what you're talking about, of like so many people getting dream catcher tattoos, and just I feel like tattoos are also just an area where people sometimes will appropriate culture in genuinely probably unintentional ways, but like all the same. Just and that feels so common too. If it's like because it is not your culture, you don't have a full understanding of it, which leads you to then getting a dream catcher tattoo and then trapping all of that bad energy like to your body, which you might not do if you had that deeper understanding.
A tattoo in different language, and a native person says that actually says like chicken nugget or something. They're like lettuce or something, and they're like that is actually not what that you thought it said.
Yeah, so just as word of caution and as advice, and just something to keep in mind as you probably like us start looking up more of this stuff, is just to of course try to not only amplify Native and Indigenous voices, but there's nothing wrong. And like I read several resources from like different like Native owned businesses and things of where it's like it's very welcome for anyone to like purchase a dream catcher, to have that, but to be engaging with it meaningfully and mindfully, and to be like, if you're going to be purchasing something like that, to do it from someone who is like Indigenous, or like to purchase one that I saw that was really encouraged was to purchase dream catchers from Ojibwe like tribe members specifically, because like that is where that originated from. Like they're not just like a Native American like culture is like a blanket thing. Like it's not everybody's thing. Like that's the tribe or the nation that it started in. So yeah, all that rambling to say, do good research and always buy cultural items from people that actually that culture belongs to.
like teal jewelry, like turquoise jewelry.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't go on my rant. That's it.
But that is a good transition point for us to jump into our relationship goal, which Elsie has for us this week.
So the relationship goal this week is to just make time to spend intentional time with your significant other or your friends, just anybody that you're close to, and kind of build up that relationship. For me this week, it's going to look like making a new recipe. I did a lot of research over the weekend, and I'm very excited about it. I get to make vegan broccoli. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you, Elsie. And then Monica has our recommendation for this week.
Yes, the recommendation is to learn about the land that you occupy. So today, I was looking up, there's a specific map that everyone kept referencing to, and it's actually a digital map. You can put your address on it. You can learn about the territories that you're on, even the treaties and the languages spoken. And so I just looked up the territories that the Advocacy Center occupies, and it's the Waco tribe, Kickapoo, Tonkawa, and Jumanos. So yeah, and so that is online. It's very user-friendly, I would say. And it seems like a lot of people reference it. I've always heard about something like that. But yeah, it's very colorful. I love it. That's my recommendation. Awesome.
And we like as an agency and like as individuals are going to be taking that recommendation. Like we've already talked about doing a little bit more research, learning a little bit more about, like Monica said, the land that we're on, that we're occupying, and just trying to be intentional in both learning more, educating ourselves, but also in being mindful and attempting to be respectful to the legacy of the land and honoring that. So this isn't just something we're telling you to go out and do. This is something we're trying to do the work on our own as well. So we want to say we're right there with you. But yeah, so that's all for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will be taking a break next week, but we'll be back the week after that with another community partner spotlight. Spoilers, we're going to have a super awesome guest, so be sure you check that out. But in the meantime, if you are wanting to engage more with the Advocacy Center, get more involved, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco, or you can find us on Instagram for that special prevention content at ACCVC_prevention. But in the meantime, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Yay.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Real-ationship Goals. This episode was produced by the Prevention and Education Department of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. Interested in more content from P&E or the Advocacy Center? You can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention or on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco. Be sure to like this episode and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Bye.